narcissistic day today. It is January 5th, I believe, and still don't have an intro, but that's okay. We're moving right along because that's what go-getters do. They just keep moving along no matter the obstacles, and they fix things as they go. So for those of you that are out there who want to start a YouTube channel, who want to start a podcast, here it is. Here it is right here. You just got to go. You can't have all the things lined up. You can't have all the stuff perfect before you get going. You just got to jump right in. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sabrina Victoria. I am the host here at Her Version. This is my story, my truth, my words on what's happened in my life, which is a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff has happened in my life. I also run a podcast called Human Better 365, which is all about time management and organization. And I help in the sobriety community, getting people sober. And I also work in the narcissism category, which is what we are talking about today. So for those of you that don't necessarily know my past, I have been in several or involved in several narcissistic relationships in my life. For a while. And I am now 3 years no contact with my main narc. And actually, that's a lie. I'm not. I left my significant other, or left him 3 years ago almost. But I've been no contact for maybe 9 months, something like that. Don't quote me on that. So I apologize for that. Sometimes I forget. But that's not a bad thing. That just goes to show that I am completely removed and working on stuff. For those of you that are in a relationship where there has been narcissistic abuse, whether it's your mother, your father, your boyfriend, a friend, your wife, whatever it is, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. There is hope. You have to get out. You have to go non-contact as much as possible. Fortunately for me, with my ex, the one that I'm predominantly talking about today, I do not have any kids with him. So I do have a son from a past relationship, a man who had narcissistic traits. I don't want to say he was actually a narcissist, but so my most recent one, the one that lasted for 13 years, I do not have any kids from him, and I was not married to him. I was engaged to him for 4 years or so, and then, cut things off. So what happened with me is I had no idea what the word narcissist meant, had never heard of it before. 8 years into my relationship of crying a lot and being stressed all the time and being blamed for everything that went wrong. 8 years in, I finally did a Google search one day on the bathroom floor while crying my eyes out in the dark. And I did a Google search that literally just said, "Why is my boyfriend bullying me?" And the whole world was opened up to me. And I finally felt like redemption. I finally felt like I wasn't insane. I wasn't crazy. And every single thing, any article that I read that was like, these are the narcissistic traits, he was like 98% of them every single time. Emotional abuse, no physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, and financial abuse. There wasn't necessarily any physical abuse towards me. That doesn't mean that there wasn't physical things that were happening, whether it was punching walls, throwing things. But I never necessarily felt, in fear of my life necessarily. Obviously there's moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, he could totally kill me, because he was so enraged, but never really to that point. So Today, I want to focus in on three things. You're going to kind of see me look over here a few times because I have some notes written down so I can stay on topic. But I'm going to be talking about how to recognize the signs of mental and emotional abuse with a narcissist. And this is the whole thing you have to realize. And the reason that I'm really touching in on and I want to share my story so much is because I was so, like, the main question that I used to ask my friends is this normal? Like, I was so confused as to whether or not I was being overly dramatic about my feelings, because I know that I am overly emotional because I am an empath. Now I know, but I didn't know if I was being overly dramatic or expecting too much or expecting some sort of fantasy. There's all this stuff of like, girls expect a man to be on a white horse making a lot of money, and all this. So I'm like, I don't want to be one of those girls. I'm super low maintenance, very helpful, I'm very caring. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe this is normal. Maybe men are supposed to get angry and mad and yell and throw things and expect everything to be absolutely perfect all the time with all of the things. And I just wasn't good enough, and I had no idea. I kept asking, is this normal? Is this healthy? I would even Google that, like, what does a healthy relationship look like? But this was before I knew narcissism. And, of course, the things that were going on in my relationship weren't in that article, but I feel for individuals who are in a relationship who don't know, who don't know if it's normal or not. So I want to touch today on, certain signs of abuse. And the three that I want to cover today are humiliation, negating, and criticizing. So, negating meaning like not paying attention to your feelings, like negating your feelings, not caring about them whatsoever. So I have a list that I'm going to be reading off along with sharing sort of my stories, because my viewpoint on some of these is exactly, and then some of them are, well, that did happen, but it actually happened this way, not that way. So, and I hope the whole idea of this is I hope that me sharing my story will open up your eyes so that you can kind of look at your relationship and say, wow, yeah, all of those things. And maybe I should think about getting out of the relationship, counseling, whatever you see fit. I don't like to be the one that's like, I'm in a lot of narcissistic groups on Facebook. And every time anyone writes anything, the first thing is always, leave him, move out, leave him. And this is the thing. As much as leave him or leave her makes sense, it's not always something that you're able to do right now, whether religiously, financially, maybe you have a bunch of kids. So sometimes you kind of have to kind of live with it and educate yourself while you're there so that you can see the signs and not feel so crazy. I know for me, I found out 8 years in, and then I still lived with him for years after that, trying to save money to leave. But I felt so much better as I was researching, as I was diving deep. I read everything. I watched every YouTube video. I read every forum, every website I could possibly get my hands on regarding emotional abuse, mental abuse, narcissism, and empaths. And the more that I realized, the more that I recognized, the more powerful I felt, the more confident I felt. And it really helped me hone in on creating my own power and creating my own confidence within myself. So, these are the tactics that are meant to undermine your self-esteem. That is one of the very first things that they do, whether you want to recognize it or not, is they love bomb you like crazy. They make you feel like the most important person in the entire world. And then once they have you in their claws, then they do their best to chip away at your confidence and your self-esteem on a daily basis. A daily basis. I remember one of the things I used to say was, I just want there to be one day, just one day, where you're not, yelling at me, where you're not frustrated with me, where you're not telling me what I can and cannot do. Or not that, where you're not telling me what I did do wrong, is what it was. Because everything was always wrong. Everything was always my fault. And every single day, that was like my goal every day, was just to wake up and then make it so that there was nothing that he could possibly complain about. And literally until the day I left, I don't think that happened more than maybe 2 times in all those years. Every single day there was something. And it got to the point where I would like clean the whole house, everything in the house, meaning like sweep, vacuum, mop, do all the dishes, make everything absolutely perfect, the bed, the dusting, before he got home from work. And then, I also helped run his business. So the business end of things. And then I also, had my son. And then it was in a relationship. So between all those things, obviously I'm a human. There was always one thing that he could point out, whether it was a little speck of dust on the counter, or whether it was a glass that had water in it that was in the sink, or, a misspelled word in an email to somebody. There was always something that he was able to take and then blow up into a crazy proportion and make me feel absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So, it would be like I wrote an email, and instead of writing the word have, I put, instead of HAVE, I put HAV, just a spelling error. And it would turn into this whole like, oh my gosh, you probably lost us thousands of dollars now. Are you, and who knows what kind of referrals we could have got from that, and blah, blah, blah. And, do you have thousands of dollars to make up for this? And what about the referrals? And it would blow up into a 1 day, sometimes 2 day argument of just absolute pure verbal torture. And I'd be crying and I'd be apologizing. And what was funny about it, not funny, it actually was not funny, but sort of humorous, is 90% of the time, and I told him this after years of this happening, and me learning about narcissism, I'm starting to stand up for myself. And I said, listen, yeah, got it. Spelled the word have wrong. Got it. However, if you remember in the past, about 90% of the things that you're complaining about that I did wrong, supposedly, actually turned out totally fine. Like the email that had the misspelled word have, we actually did sign up that client, 3 weeks later. And then we actually did get a referral and, make thousands of dollars off of it, or what have you. So a lot of times the issues that he decided to blow up into huge proportions actually didn't even hit us financially at all. But what he would do is the 1 or 2 over the course of years that did turn into something crazy, he would bring those up again. He'd be like, this is just like the Joneses case where, you did this and then we lost that. And usually, honestly, it actually wound up working out totally fine. And I'd get so frustrated because I'd be like, you just tortured me verbally for, the last 42 hours, making me feel like a complete waste of space. And then they just signed on the dotted line today. That's absolute bullcrap. So anyways, absolute craziness. So the first thing that I want to talk about is name calling. Just to give you guys an idea here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 things I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to try to sum it all up within 20, 25 minutes. So the first one I'm going to talk about is name calling. Blatantly calling you stupid, a loser. With me, I didn't necessarily have this issue like that. And I want to explain this because I have a feeling there's other people out there that are dealing with this. So my narc would say, he would never come right out and call me an idiot, ever. I don't think the entire time we were together did he ever say, you're an idiot or you're stupid. What he would do is he would take whatever happened. So, you know, for instance, there was this situation where we were heading on a business call, and before we left the house, I had my purse. There was like this desk we had in our home right next to the door, and that's where we were leaving, we put our keys, purse, wallet, phone, whatever, things that we were taking with us. So I had my purse on the table, and there was this red binder on the table that I had never seen before, and, you know, keys, whatever. So we head out to leave, get in the car, we start driving, and probably the thing was super far away. It was like 3-hour drive or something. And literally like an hour into it, he goes, did you bring the red binder? Or where's the red binder? Something like that. And I'm like, what red binder? And he goes, there was a red binder that you were supposed to grab. I'm like, there was a red binder on the table by the door, but no one ever told me to grab it. And I had never seen the red binder, didn't bring it. And right away, at this point, I had been with him for years. So I knew what was coming. Like, I knew that it was going to be this whole thing. And sure enough, it turned into this whole thing. And what he would do, this is an example, is instead of saying, you're such an idiot, I can't believe you didn't grab the red binder, he would say, only an idiot would not grab the red binder. A smart person would know to grab the red binder. Anything that's by the door, I put it next to your purse on purpose so that you would grab it. So he wouldn't say like, you're an idiot. So then this is how he would get me. So it would always turn to this was every argument, turn to this whole thing. I'd get defensive. I'd start crying or yelling or whatever mechanism turned on at that point. And I'd be like, stop calling me an idiot. I'm not an idiot. And he would then say, I didn't call you an idiot. I said, anybody who would do something like that would be an idiot. And I'd be like, well, I did do that. So that's you calling me an idiot. And he'd be like, nope, didn't call you an idiot. And it would turn into this whole thing of just a complete disaster in my head of just ridiculousness. So be mindful of that. It's not always them straight out saying something derogatory towards you or name calling you. It's also the roundabout games that they play that insinuate that you are an idiot or you are stupid, which in this case was my case. The next one is derogatory pet names. So the ones that were used in my sense would also actually be called name calling. He wasn't, well, I guess maybe it was. So I'm Hispanic, so he would, call me the Mexican. It was like a pet name that he would call me. The reason it was derogatory was because he would make fun of Mexicans. So, I don't want to say he'd call them dirty people necessarily, but, he would say things that weren't so nice about them in general. We lived in Chicago, so there was a plethora of Hispanic people in and around the areas all the time doing landscaping and work that regular Americans don't want to do. And he would, say things that weren't so nice about them. So in essence, him calling me the Mexican was derogatory. whenever there was something that was a little amiss in his house with dirtiness, like let's say the lint trap, that was a big one. The lint trap in the dryer wasn't cleared out, and he would say, he'd talk to the dog, and he'd be like, this is what happens when you have dirty Mexicans in your house. The lint trap doesn't get cleaned out. So, things like that, where it's, also kind of like, he'd also use it in an endearing way. Like, come on, Mexican, we gotta go. Let's go grab, a smoothie, Mexican, or something. So it was like two-toned, but not friendly, not loving at all. So a few that they give you here is my chubby pumpkin, making fun of your weight. Sloth would be another one. Character assassination. This usually involves the word always or never. You're always late. You're always wrong. You're always screwing up. You're always arguing. Basically, they say you're not a good person. So I don't even need to explain this to you. This happens in just regular relationships also. I know when you take counseling, I've never been to couples counseling before, but that's like a big thing in couples counseling, to not use the word never or always. So they use that often. And I had that in my relationship often. And I don't need to explain that one. You get it. Yelling. So yelling, screaming, swearing, anything to intimidate you or make you feel small. It might be accompanied by fist pounding or throwing things. So, saying, or yelling ridiculousness, not having a calm attitude, not being able to communicate calmly ever is a good one. Whenever there was any rift at all, it was always not like yelling at the top of his lungs, but like angrily speaking to me with an angry, dissatisfied tone. But yelling is a good one. And then as far as fist pounding or throwing things, it was a constant thing. He never put any holes in the walls, but he would punch things, throw things. I remember several times with the Bluetooths, when the Bluetooths were first coming out and they wouldn't connect correctly. He literally probably went through like 75 Bluetooths. He would just get so irritated with it for not linking up with his phone while he was driving or wherever. He would just throw the Bluetooth as hard as he could at anything. The handful of times it happened in the vehicle, and he'd throw it at the windshield and it would go all over the place, including hitting me in the face. So just uncontrolled anger, not being able to communicate in a healthy manner. It's a good trait. Patronizing. Aw, sweetie, I know you try, but this is just beyond your understanding. So this one he actually did not do to me. However, I do have a friend who has a husband who does this, where he says, he based like anything that's above her head where she doesn't quite understand it and she asks a question, he would pet her on the head. I saw this happen dozens of times. Pet her on the head and say, oh, honey, it's okay. It's okay. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. I still love you. Basically meaning like, don't hurt your brain by trying to figure it out. And it's okay that you're stupid. I still love you. That's patronizing. Not nice. And it may come across as kind and endearing if you are with a narcissist, because they seem as if they're being kind. So I can kind of see it. Even when I first saw this happening to my friend, I didn't know about narcissism at that point. But when I saw it happening to her, it triggered something in my head where I was like, this is not correct. This is not right. This is hurting her self-esteem and her confidence 100%. And a part of me wanted to say something and stand up for her, and I never did. But years later, when I started reading about this, it clicked and came up back into me that It's probably something that she's dealing with, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Public embarrassment. This is another one that I didn't really get too much with any of my narcissists. They pick fights, expose your secrets, or make fun of your shortcomings in public. So mine was super, super reserved when it came to the public. He did not want anybody knowing how he treated me outside of work or outside of the home. So this might have happened maybe 5 times over the course of 13 years where he publicly humiliated me at work. Because remember, I worked for him. We ran several sales offices together. And there was a handful of times where he did say stuff that was super demeaning in front of the sales guys. But it wasn't a constant thing at all. If anything, he would say things that were demeaning to me quietly or calmly when we were in public. And then I would flip out and start freaking out in public. And I would actually be the one where he's like, calm down, you're acting like a psycho. He'd flip it that way on me. So he'd like antagonize me or patronize me by saying little things calmly and quietly, and then I would escalate it and get my feelings hurt and either start crying or start yelling. And then he would be able to make me look like a fool or make me look like a crazy Mexican. That was his thing. Like, you're acting like a crazy ghetto Mexican. So there's that one for you. Dismissiveness. You tell them about something that's important to you and they say it is nothing. Body language like eye rolling, smirking, head shaking, and sighing help convey the same message. So constantly minimizing how I felt and blatantly telling me that things did not happen. So yeah, that's dismissiveness was a huge one. And I remember when I first learned about narcissism, I was so ecstatic that I finally figured this part out, because he would make me feel absolutely crazy when he would say that he didn't do something that he did do. So hurting my feelings, for instance, I would say, you hurt my feelings. When you said this, that hurt my feelings. And he was dismissive about it, acted like he didn't even care. And, I'd be like, yesterday when you said this and this and this, and I'm tired of it. And he would look me in the eye and he would say, I didn't even do that. I never even said that. Why would I say that to you? That would be really mean to say. I would never say something like that to you. And he totally said it. He totally said it. And this happened, day after day, week after week, year. And the same thing. There's stuff that he said or did to me 500 times. And like on time 499, I was still saying, you've done this to me so many times. You've said this to me so many times. And he would say, no, I didn't. I've never said that to you. It was absolutely mind-boggling. So being dismissive about my feelings, acting as if it didn't happen, eye rolling. So these next two kind of go along with it. Joking and sarcasm. He would kind of link those ones together. So I also had a really good friend that used to do this too. She actually has pretty much every narcissistic trait. Also, she was my childhood friend. I think I had her from age like 9 to 15 or something. But she used to use the joking line all the time on me. She'd be like, oh my gosh, your hair is so frizzy. Just kidding. Oh my gosh, your nose is so big. Just kidding. Oh my gosh, look at how big your feet are. Your feet look so huge. Just kidding. Totally hurt my feelings. Totally hurt my confidence. But I didn't know. I had no idea. And I stayed friends with this girl for a really long time. And I had no clue that she had or was or is a narcissist on a very deep level. So these he would usually use, the joking and the sarcasm. So joking, it says the jokes might have a grain of truth to them, or be completely fabricated. Either way, they make you look or feel foolish. So there you go. Sarcasm, often just a dig in disguise. When you object, they claim to have been teasing you and tell you to stop taking everything so seriously. So my ex would say, or would play this role when I was done. When I was like, I'm out of here. I'm tired of this. You keep doing the same thing to me over and over and over again. This is absolutely insane. I don't want to be here with you anymore. He would then twist it. He'd be like, oh my gosh, you're so sensitive. I was just kidding. And I'd be like, you just freaking ranted and raved for 5 hours. It's 2 a.m. about a dish in the sink and how I'm a dirty ghetto Mexican. How is that joking? Well, it was. Can't you take a joke? And he'd flip the whole thing on me and make it look like I'm absolutely an insane, overly sensitive person, and totally make me feel like I was going insane, literally going insane. And I probably said that 1,000 times, within the amount of time I was with him. I would literally say, like, I feel like I'm going insane. I feel like I'm going crazy. And he'd be like, oh my gosh, you're so dramatic. You're so sensitive. Stop being such a baby. So be careful. Be careful with that stuff. Insults of your appearance. They tell you just before you go out that your hair is ugly, your outfit is clownish. Now, in my narcissistic groups that I'm in on Facebook, I see this all over the place with people, spouses telling their partner that they are fat, ugly, everything that you could possibly think of. I did not get that. There were a couple of things that he did say throughout the relationship, but nothing absolutely, ridiculous. What he would do though is he would make sure that I never looked super, super hot. My definition of what hot is, or however hot I could possibly get when we left. And the way that he would do that, the example I have here is, one day, wearing a cute little dress that was literally below my knees, not tight. It was a fit and flare. So the top hugged my breasts and then it flared out. So it was not tight around anywhere else but my breasts, and my breasts were covered. It was a high neck and it flared out. It came down to my knees, below my knees. And then I was wearing regular office stilettos. I mean, not stilettos, high heels, not stilettos, regular office heels that you see like every woman in the office wearing, black. And I came out of the room feeling very pretty. And his acknowledgement to me, instead of saying you look very pretty, was, where is your pole? Where's your stripper pole? Basically meaning that I look like a whore. So that's kind of the stuff that he would say. If I look too pretty, he'd be like, who are you going to go see? Who are you seeing? Who are you trying to impress? And it got to the point over years that I would not get dazzled up to that level unless I was with him. And then even if I was with him, I still didn't. But definitely if I was going out alone, I always dressed down, no heels, hair up, minimal makeup. Towards the end, I didn't really try a whole lot because it wasn't worth the comments. It wasn't worth, when I would leave, he'd call me every 5 minutes to see where I was. If I said I was running to the store, running to the office supply store, if I was at work, he'd call me every 5 minutes. Then by the time I come back, then he'd time me. He'd be like, the office store is only 15 minutes away. So that would have taken you 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. That's 30 minutes. To get the shit that you needed probably would have been another 15, 20 minutes. You should have been back here in 45 minutes. Why were you gone for an hour and 10? Like, track me like that. And I have to be like, well, I stopped by the gas station and then the gas pump didn't work. So I had to go back inside and I had to explain my story to him in order for him to get off my back. So it was just easier to just not dress to that level. So insults of your appearance, that was the one we just covered. The next one, there's 3 more left. The next one is belittling your accomplishments. Your abuser might tell you that your achievements mean nothing, or they may even claim responsibility for your success. So this happened often. However, I worked for him, so it didn't happen that often. However, when I was leaving and started really working my side businesses, growing my time management company that I have now, Human Better 365, with coaching and organization and all that stuff. I was certified as a life coach on 6 different levels. I have neuro-linguistic programming coaching. I'm a hypnosis certified. And I dove in and I started educating myself on all these things. And on social media, he was following me just regular. And so this one is, this happened a lot when I first started my YouTube channel. I believe I started it back in 2000 and I don't know, a long time ago, like maybe almost 10 years ago. Not that long, but a long time ago. And started getting a little bit of traction, started getting some views on some things, and was talking about it. Not necessarily to him, because I knew not to brag to him, but maybe he heard me talking to my mom or talking to my sister, to my friend, or overheard the conversation. And he would again say things so similar, like, why are you even bothering with that? Such a waste of time. How much money are you making on YouTube anyways? Like $2? Meanwhile, I was making no money on YouTube at that moment. But just belittling it, making me feel insignificant, making me feel silly. I was also huge into yoga, huge into working out, which he didn't like because that was me keeping my body nice. And similar, very same thing. He didn't want anything to do with it and would make it super inconvenient for me to be into it. So, during my yoga class, he would all of a sudden have an emergency. Or I used to teach spin class. I taught spin class for 2 years. And same thing, when everything would be fine and dandy and chill. And then as soon as I had to leave for my spin class, it was a huge emergency happen. And I'd have to either work it quickly last minute or totally cancel my class, because he did not want me doing anything without him. He did not want me having any outside interests. He didn't want me having any outside friends outside of him. So they kind of get rid of that by putting that stuff down. The last thing is pushing your buttons. This one I did not really have an example for. But pushing your buttons, once your abuser knows about something that annoys you, they'll bring it up every chance they get. So if that is something that you're dealing with, again, a narcissistic trait or a trait of being mentally and emotionally abused. So this is the thing, my friends. As you can see by going through this, it's anything that makes you feel insignificant. Anything that your spouse is doing on a regular basis that continues to lower your self-esteem, lower your confidence, make you feel foolish, make you feel stupid, is a form of emotional and mental abuse. It is not healthy. It is not a place that you should be living. Remember, my friends, this is the life that has been given to you. One of the things that I used to say to my ex is, I do not know why I was put on this earth, but I do know that I was not put on this earth to be abused, or I didn't say abused back then, but I was not put on this earth to be your verbal punching bag. That's what I used to say. I don't know why I was put on this earth, but I definitely know I was not put on this earth to be your verbal punching bag, because that's what I was all the time. Yelling, screaming, belittling, angry, blaming. Every single thing that could possibly go wrong was my fault. If we lost a receipt, my fault. Everything was my fault. It is a good idea to start thinking about changing directions as to where you are right now. Whether or not that means leaving your situation is completely up to you. I am not here to make that decision for you, but I do know 100% that you also were not put on this earth to be verbally abused, and you know that also. You know that also. So listen, my friends, thank you so much for catching up with me here on Her Version Podcast. I certainly hope you guys enjoyed that. Next time we meet up, I will be talking about control and shame within the emotional and mental abuse category. So as you guys can see, I pretty much just jumped right in. I know I was talking the last time we spoke about not knowing where to start. I'm just jumping in. So again, those of you who are looking to start something, looking to tell your story, it's as simple as just jumping right in and doing it. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and we will talk to you soon.